What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Slate. It's a Monday edition of the program, so we got a full work week ahead of us. Thanks for being with us. Of course, the sweat comes your way in the mornings. You might be used to seeing these guys, Jeff Ulrich, as well as Matt LaMarca. I am Adam Kaufman. We appreciate you taking the time, whether you're finding us on Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, or some mystery service I've never heard of. Guys, how are you?
Excellent.
Great.
My golfer won last week, so I mean.
Well, that's a nice little way to start the week. Nice, you know.
Yeah, it's a feather in your cap to start things off, right?
Happens like once a year.
I mean, Thursday.
It's big time, you know. Guy I actually talk about wins. So,
well, congratulations to you, and hopefully your bankroll as well.
Golf tournaments this week to bet on too. There's the Puerto Rico Open and the Arnold Palmer. I mean, we're into prime golf season. I know, you guys are going to talk about NBA and MLB as well, but I mean, this is it, man. So.
You know what? Let's do a little bit of everything. I don't think there are any rules here. Let's do a smorgasbord of a show because there's some NBA I want to do.
Producing the show. Shout out to producer. There's no rules when he goes.
No, Eamon's a real, like, here are some thoughts, and now do whatever the heck you want to do while I hang out in the background. So let's do that. You brought up PGA. Let's celebrate your win for a moment. We spend so much time talking about all of LaMarca's riches throughout the football season and his best bets hitting week after week after week. What about you, Moose? Let's talk about your PGA success. Who was the winner anyway?
Oh, look at this guy. Doesn't even watch golf. Chris Kirk, man, getting it done. Huge comeback story. You should definitely look it up if you haven't. I mean, the guy openly dealt with alcohol abuse, had to take a couple years off from the tour, grind his way back through the minor leagues, the Corn Ferry, and came all the way back to win. I think it was 8 years between wins. So, yeah, he's playing well to start the West Coast swing. Had done well in Florida before. It's a nice win. Is like 30-1. Some people are showing me 38-1. I think DraftKings actually gave out a boost on Chris Kirk towards the end of the week because no one was betting him. So that was nice to see. But it was a great tournament, man. I mean, PGA National. I know LaMarca was telling me he had some action on Shane Lowry. So lots of guys like that down the stretch as well. But that's a great venue. Hopefully it comes back. And another big event this week, Arnold Palmer Invitational, Bay Hill, another great venue. So there's lots going on, man. It's a good time to get into golf if you haven't for DFS or betting. You can check us out. DKNation.DraftKings.com for my cheat sheet and stuff after. And I mean, look, if we got some time, I'll go over maybe at the end of the show, we'll give out a few early plays as well. But
I know you're not just a gut feeling guy. You have a process. So what made you roll with Kirk last week?
So he was playing extremely well to start the season. His approach game, again, which is pretty much what you want to target when you get into Florida, really stressed that with his been clicking well above his career average. So he also took last week off at Riviera, which I thought was a huge indicator. He was top 10 at the Honda before. And Chris Kirk is just a classy player. I mean, he's won 4 times on tour. This isn't some guy who, is incapable of winning against the PGA field. So I just thought his odds were, especially as they drifted later in the week, they needed to be taken advantage of.
So is it obviously you're not giving out plays at this point in time. Things need to unfold over the next couple of days. But have you obviously you've started to put some thought into it, I'm sure. And like you said, your cheat sheet and all of that. Do you have some early indicators of what direction you might go going into the latter part of the week with the multiple?
I mean, look, the first thing I do on Monday mornings is hit up some bets. I mean, you got to get in early. Some of these guys, their odds drop. You got Jason Day was already like 35 down to 25-1. But first guy I bet was Victor Hovland. He's sitting around 30-35-1. He was top 5 at this event last season. He's got a great record in Florida. He was T2 at Concession, top 10 at Sawgrass, T2 at Valspar. So this is a state where Hovland's had a lot of success. You don't have to scramble as much around Bay Hill, or you do, but everybody kind of struggles with it. So I think that's going to help Hovland. He was trending well with his approaches as well last couple starts. I really like him at that price. My long shot pick that I've already bet is Byung-Hun An as well. Played well yesterday. Just played well all week, really. Had a pretty solid week, and he's a player who I just think is going to win at some point in his career.
LaMarca, I don't want you to feel left out. I know we're going to hear from you plenty over the next half hour, but do you have any golf thoughts before we move on?
Yeah, I got a long shot bomb for this tournament. Gary Woodland, 90-1.
It's good.
Gary Woodland, I know a little bit about the strokes gained, okay, Jeff? If you look at strokes gained approach to start the year, the only player that has been better than Woodland is Jon Rahm. The only problem is that Gary Woodland can't make a putt to save his life. So
Very true.
putting, there's some variance in that. Maybe this is the week something actually falls for him. I think that I like him a lot in DFS, and I don't mind him as a bet at 90 to 1.
I think it's more than a fair price at 90 to 1. It's a guy I'll probably be having some exposure to. He should have won this event last year. He had the lead with 2 holes to go, and then he flubbed it out of the bunker. So that is the Gary Woodland, scenario. Obviously, is around the green and on the greens. It's sketchy, but man, like, you're getting 80 to 1. We're not talking about like 20 to 1 here. I think with the way he's hitting it, the way he hit it at Riviera, man, yeah, that's a pretty solid pick. There's one guy, you just say I'm going to pick later at it. That's fine. That'd be fine one to do it with.
All right. Well, if anyone has any thoughts, questions, comments, whatever it is as it relates to the PGA, we're happy to circle back to those. So weigh in, obviously, wherever it is that you're finding us. But let's move over to the NFL. The only real news, I hesitate to call it news of significance, but news of note anyway today, is the release of Commanders quarterback Carson Wentz, a move long expected. So that's why I say it's not really a move of significance. It saves Washington more than $26 million as well, with a couple of years remaining on his contract, no guaranteed money. So kind of a no-brainer on the part of the Capitals here, Commanders, pardon me, Lamarca. But we'll save hockey for later. But is that one of the, I don't know, let's call it 2/3 of the league has their quarterback situation ironclad figured out going into the year? Is Washington one of those that knows exactly what it's going to be doing?
Absolutely not. I think that with Taylor Heineke, right? Like, he won some games for them last year, but they were winning in spite of him, not because of him. To the point where they decided to bench Heineke and go back to Wentz late in the year. They are, I would say, among the most unsettled teams in the league at the position, because they really have no present and they have no future, unless you're a big, Sam Howell believer, which I don't think there are a ton of. So I would expect them to be doing, basically everything that most of these QB needy teams are doing. They're going to be looking in the draft. They're going to be exploring options in free agency. And Washington has some pieces, so they can convince themselves that they are a team that, is a quarterback away from making the playoffs, I think.
Jeff?
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure Heineke's actually not even under contract. He's a UFA, isn't he? I mean, he could very easily be brought back, but the funny part about the Commanders is I actually wrote an article on them like last month, just about this situation particularly. I mean, the Wentz thing was obvious. It was going to happen. It's not even really news. It was, everybody in the industry knew it was going to happen. You're going to have a $26 million cap hit with him. The interesting part now is they've committed to bringing Sam Howell back and giving him a chance to run this. But what they have to ask themselves is Heineke really the best guy to bring back with that? My argument was no. What they should be doing is drafting another guy to compete with a Sam Howell and really just putting more like draft capital back into the position. There's a guy named Hendon Hooker who has some really nice stats out of Tennessee. He tore his ACL, but like, I think that's a perfect person for the Commanders to bring in. Work with Howell. He doesn't necessarily have to be the guy who's like competing with Howell if he's still injured, but it's at least a backup plan if Sam Howell gets injured. So I'd rather see them do something like that than just bring in Heineke, who I guess he's a good backup plan, but like, he's not really going to give you any future. I mean, if Sam Howell doesn't work out and you bring back Heineke, you're still left with nothing. So the Commanders need to invest in this position. Maybe they do sign someone as well as does draft another quarterback, but it's a position they need to find. They need to invest some capital in for sure this offseason.
So I know we spent a lot of time focused on Aaron Rodgers, rightfully so. Obviously, he doesn't know what he wants to do. Green Bay doesn't know what it wants to do, and
they know what they want to do. They want to get rid of it.
They'd like to get out from under that contract. I realize, but but there's not a lot of say there, I guess, on the part of the Packers is maybe a better way to put it. So they're sort of waiting for that domino to fall, hoping he wants out or will just retire, but not necessarily something they can move on just right now. And then you have Jimmy Garoppolo and all of that uncertainty, I guess, that is attached to him. Where do you think, as we get a little bit closer to the draft and that type of thing, where do you think, Jeff, some of these dominoes are going to start to drop and these guys are going to land? Or is this really going to drag until we get, even beyond the draft and not quite to training camp, obviously, but a little bit closer to mini camps and that type of thing?
Yeah, I mean, this is the dead part of the year for the NFL. Like teams there's a lot of humming and hawing, and like, at this point last year, everyone was just like, oh yeah, Jimmy Garoppolo is getting traded. Like he's not even going to be a part of the San Francisco 49ers. Then nothing happened. Then he had surgery, and then like more nothing happened, and like other moves were made, and then Jimmy Garoppolo didn't get moved. So this is, I don't expect a ton to happen right now, to be honest. If any team's going to do something, I feel like it's going to be the Jets, who might just get fed up with waiting for Aaron Rodgers or that situation. But I think there's just a lot of going-ons behind the scene right now, and kind of feeling out process. I do think Aaron Rodgers, unfortunately, is controlling a lot of the narrative right now, because until that situation gets resolved, I don't think teams like the Jets and the Raiders can really make a decision on what they want to do. And maybe part of what gets resolved is if nothing's happened by the get to the draft, maybe some of these teams like end up going a different direction. So I don't think there's going to be a ton of movement until the draft. We'll see. Maybe the Jets like pull the trigger and just get fed up with this or something. But right now, I don't know if there's going to be a ton done before then. That's just the way I'm looking at it.
LaMarca, are we at a point where there's, what's the best way to put this? I mean, I a lot of the time in past years, you're looking at it and saying, there aren't enough good quarterbacks in the league to truly, fill out all of the teams. Are we now at a point where there are not only enough good quarterbacks, but maybe even a surplus, like maybe too many, I'm not talking great or elite or anything like that, but above average or average quarterbacks, maybe perfectly mediocre is your floor, enough guys that there are actually not enough teams for all of these guys to get jobs?
No, no, absolutely not. I think that
you don't feel like there's some good talent available that, needs a home?
Dude, go look.
Sure, there are, but there are plenty of teams that are going to be interested in their services. The like Jeff said, though, the first domino that has to fall is Rodgers, because every team that needs a quarterback and thinks that they can contend are going to be looking to him as their top target. Mm-hmm. Except for the Jets, who really do seem enamored with Derek Carr. So it wouldn't shock me if they get Carr and then Rodgers signs. But that's really where things are going. And if you need to know where the state of the quarterback position is, there's probably going to be 4 quarterbacks drafted in the top 10 picks once again this year. Yep. So, like, I don't think that we are necessarily looking at a abundance of talent at the position. We're just it's just a slow developing market, right? I mean, when Daniel Jones is saying that he's going to get $45 million a year, like, I think that is a pretty good indicator of where the quarterback position is at the moment.
Maybe I'm naive, but I just don't feel like the draft as it relates to the quarterback position specifically is all that good an indicator of what the talent level, of
course it is. They're the teams that need the quarterbacks.
There are enough there every year. There are teams that need quarterbacks. I mean, that's going to happen until the end of time. And as long as those organizations don't have QBs, it's dart throws. It's dart throws for QBs in the draft, and it's always going to be that way, hoping that a team hits on one. As long as you don't have an elite one, you're looking to find one. Hope.
You're acting like it's not dart throws when they're signing UFAs, though. I mean, the nice thing about the draft is that you're getting guys on cheap contracts, and I think also what we've seen is that it's not as much as a dart throw as you think over the last 5 or 10 years. Guys are working out more. Getting Jalen Hurts in the second round, we don't see. That's not something that's happened very much in the past. Even a guy like Daniel Jones. I mean, he was the 6th overall pick. Now people are going to be giving him like $40 million a year. So I think that the draft to me has actually become more attractive than the UFA market. It used to be like the draft was kind of like, oh, you only draft a quarterback high if your team's terrible, because you're going to be terrible for so long. This guy's going to take forever to develop. But I think that the narrative has changed where the draft is the better place to go. I mean, look how quickly the Bengals turned around. Like, And I know Joe
Mhm.
Burrow was first overall, but like you can get there's talented quarterbacks that are going to be available here, after number one. So I would disagree with that. I don't think it's as
No, but
much of a
you're
dart
kind
throw.
of making my point. I don't think the UFAs are the guys who are the dart throws. I think you know exactly who those guys are. That's why teams are always looking to the draft. That's why, like Lamarcus said,
Okay.
4 in the top 10. That's what's always going to happen.
Yeah, but you're saying like the UFAs. Okay, they're not dart
The
throws.
reason why we haven't seen Derek Carr and Aaron Rodgers move yet is because there are all these teams that feel comfortable with their quarterback situation. And I couldn't disagree with that more.
Mm.
But to back up what Jeff says, like look at some of the guys who changed teams last year. The Colts thought they were getting a safe bet with Matt Ryan. That clearly did not work.
Yeah.
The Commanders thought that they were making an upgrade with Carson Wentz. That clearly did not work. Go
Russell
back
Wilson.
2 years ago with Jameis Winston and the Saints, right? Like,
yeah,
I'm honestly struggling to find the last time a quarterback changed teams and it like legitimately worked out for them, right?
Tom Brady.
Yeah, that's probably it.
Yeah, that's fine. That's a fair one, right? And Ryan Tannehill had some success with the Titans, although they are now a team with some quarterback uncertainty as well. But signing the free agent quarterbacks, again, just to echo what Jeff was saying, it's a dangerous game because those kind of mistakes, they're big mistakes that cost your team a lot of salary cap money. If you miss in the draft, oh well, you'll get another shot,
So we can agree that Aaron Rodgers is clearly the first guy, that's that, and will set the tone for the rest. But who, Jeff, are you maybe beyond that most interested in? Is it Derek Carr? Is it, Jimmy Garoppolo? Is it a guy we haven't even mentioned yet?
I mean, honestly, after Carr and Rodgers, I think after those two, it kind of comes down to like what team is involved and term. I mean, I'm more interested, like if a decent team, like say the Panthers, who maybe have some talent on defense and they still have DJ Moore, they went after a guy like Garoppolo and got him for cheap or just like a single year, it'd be semi-interesting. But there's really no one else as far as the UFA market. I mean, we just finished talking about Taylor Heineke.
I'll give you one more, Jeff.
Okay.
I really like, if you're looking to go with the cheap quarterback option, I really like Jacoby Brissett. I thought he actually did a pretty good job for the Browns last year. PFF graded him 6th at the quarterback position. He was efficient, obviously not a huge high volume passer playing for Cleveland, but like if I was a team like a Washington, which is probably not going to be able to get one of the top young quarterbacks in the draft and maybe doesn't want to shell out for a big free agent quarterback, I think that a guy like Brissett is the perfect bridge option for them.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. Like, I agree. I mean, I think Brissett, again, like I'm not big on Taylor Heineke. I think Brissett would be interesting. I think if a team could get Garoppolo for a decent amount. I mean, he's another guy who grades out, I think, better than people realize. But these are just bridge quarterbacks, right? So to me, like, yes, signing a bridge quarterback is important. You need depth at the position, but like the teams like Carolina and Washington, they need to somehow reinvest in this, like getting those young quarterbacks, someone who's going to work out. And you know what? To Carolina's credit, like they did, and to Washington, they did invest in the quarterback position last season. It's just, Carolina's guy unfortunately got hurt, and Washington is now in a position where they invested. Now they at least have a young guy for next year. So that's what the draft to me is the really interesting thing for quarterbacks. The free agency is kind of like second fiddle, but yeah, I agree. Like Brissett, to me, he's probably the best bridge out option out there. He can do a lot of different things. He definitely surprised me as a passer last season. And then Garoppolo is probably second fiddle, but I mean, I'm struggling to think of names after those two guys. Really am. Mariota, I don't know, man. It's tough.
Lamarcus Dalton, I think, kind of fits that description as well.
Dalton is.
Ugh. Yeah, he's not the most exciting option, but
he's out there though.
I'd be more excited to pay him than I would be to pay Daniel Jones $45 million a year. If those are my two options, I'll take option Dalton.
Is there one team's quarterback position? So never mind the specific player like we've been talking about. Is there one team in terms of what it does this offseason that you're most interested in? To me, there's one clear favorite here, but I'm curious what you guys think.
I mean, to me, it's the Jets. I think the Jets can win that division, but they either got to get A-Rod or they've got to, I don't even know what their other option is. Maybe a trade, maybe Garoppolo even gets it done. I don't know, but they've got to figure out something where they're upgrading, even if it's just like a depth upgrade. Like, okay, we're going to give Zach Taylor another shot, but we got this good fallback option like Brissett or Garoppolo to really boost us. But the Jets are the most intriguing team because they're the best team. Like they're the most well-rounded team. They've got the most depth. Kind of interested in Carolina and kind of interested in Washington, but to me, it's the Jets.
LaMarca?
I'm gonna say Tampa Bay for me. They seem pretty committed on turning things over to Kyle Trask. I am not a Trask believer. I think that is going to be a disaster, but they drafted him as Brady's replacement, so I at least give them credit for giving things a shot. And if it doesn't work, then you're probably picking at the top of the draft the following year. So I agree with the decision making. The fact that his job is like kind of set in stone, it looks like, feels very surprising to me.
It's the Buccaneers are interesting. They're kind of aging, but I really like the OC they hired, Dave Canales. I think that's how you pronounce his name. He coached. He was a QB coach for Seattle next year, and he said, like, I just like the way he talks. He doesn't have like, oh, we got to run the ball or we're just going to pass all the time. He said we're just going to do what works. When we need to pass, we're going to pass. When we need to run, we're going to run. That's kind of what Seattle did last year. It just, it's just a common sense approach. Like you play how the game plays out, and I like that. But that, as LaMarcus said, if he's rolling with Kyle Trask, there's going to be issues regardless of who the OC is. So I agree. That's a really interesting spot because Tampa, like, I kind of wrote them off in my mind, but again, having done a little bit of research on them now, if they got the right guy in there, like maybe they get Garoppolo, they could just win that division again. I really do think so. I like the hire there at the very least with their OC.
So guys, for me, it's a team that neither of you mentioned. And I know who that quarterback is going to be. We don't know if he'll be any good, but we know who the quarterback is going to be. Okay. Maybe the reason you guys didn't mention this team is because it almost doesn't matter to some degree. It's a little less interesting to me now that Tom Brady is retired, but San Francisco, you've got the team right now that has the third best Super Bowl odds on the DraftKings Sportsbook at plus 800. The top 5-7 teams who their quarterbacks are going to be. The Niners going in, we don't know. And again, maybe your logic is whether it's Trey Lance or whether it's Brock Purdy. Obviously it's not Garoppolo, but whether it's those two guys, whichever one it is, either way, it's going to be a good team. And it almost doesn't matter who the QB is because, they're winning with defense and Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle can catch the passes. Deebo Samuel, if he's still there, whatever. But I don't know. To me, going in, that's a pretty fascinating story. When you're talking about one of the top teams in the NFL, who the quarterback is feels pretty relevant to me.
I just think with San Francisco, it's not as cloudy a picture as some people think. It's going to be Trey Lance, man. I mean, I don't think Purdy is going to be ready. The injury he sustained is terrible, and I mean, I think the big question mark is, does San Francisco finally walk away from Garoppolo? I know they've said they're going to, but we've been there before. So until that happens, I'm just assuming Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be a 49er at this point.
Shanahan has said pretty publicly that Jimmy is gone.
He did it last year too, though. So, I mean, I'm done. I'm done with this Garoppolo thing. He's a 49er in my mind until it happens. Once that happens, I think it's just they have to give Trey Lance the reins.
Have to.
I think it'll be Lance. I think that'll get cleared up as we go on.
Can't trade as much as they've traded to get Trey Lance.
Yeah.
I mean, what has the guy made? 3 starts in his career?
Yeah, I think it's 4, but
something like that. Yeah.
You have to try him out.
Yeah.
As far as just raw talent goes, he leaves guys like Garoppolo and Purdy just in the dust. And so, yeah, I'm with Jeff. I think that when those markets eventually come out, you know, who will be the week 1 starter for whatever team. If they have one for the 49ers, I will be all over Trey Lance.
Yeah, if first chance we get some, I mean, like, what would you? I mean, I would bet anything down to like -200 there. I feel like I'd feel pretty confident, man. I mean,
I'd go up to -500.
Yeah, I mean, like yeah. So that's actually an interesting. That's something to keep an eye on. Who knows what they'll throw out.
All right, let's regardless of what the Niners do, let us three pivot to something else in the roughly 10 minutes we have left here, and paying off the promise of hitting all these different sports. So now that we're in this like TikTok short attention span generation, obviously you've got the different sports that have their, and some have been around longer than others, but they're more unique ways of speeding up endings of games. NHL, obviously, Jeff, as you well know, has, you know, gone to the shootout and they can't play forever. Baseball more recently is, you know, now you got the ghost runners at second base and extra innings. Well, according to Eric Pincus, who writes for Bleacher Report, I saw this online. I'm curious if you guys saw it. The NBA could reportedly implement a target score for overtime games. From the article, that would prevent overlong broadcasts and overloading player minutes, like Clippers forward Kawhi Leonard playing 46 minutes of a double overtime loss to the Sacramento Kings on Friday. Is there any chance that Adam Silver could do something this stupid, Lamarca?
I don't know if that's stupid. I think that could be kind of fun.
No, it's fun in the All-Star game. It is not fun in real life.
It's the same thing as the extra innings rule in baseball. And if you don't, which is like also that, stupid. I get it, but we have to realize that this is a different era of sports, right? Like in baseball, when you play an 18-inning game, it just ruins your team for the next few days, because the way that teams change relievers and stuff now, you know, you're sending half your bullpen down to the minor leagues and getting new fresh arms up. Like, it legitimately messes with the team for multiple days after the fact.
I'm just fine with that being a part of the sport. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, you might say you're okay with that, but like, I don't know. It's
not like I don't have the evidence of my entire life before a couple of years ago to fall back on.
I'm just going to say I understand why the league is doing it.
Yeah. No, go ahead, Matt. Sorry.
No, they're obviously, if they did that in a postseason contest, it would be different. But like, there's with the way that the player management and player rest, it's already such a humongous issue in the NBA, and everyone is trying to figure out how to get players on the floor more than they are currently. The answer is certainly not having them play 50 minutes in double and triple overtime contests.
Yeah.
So if
games,
that's
though, like the couple of games we've had just within the last week have been exhilarating. I don't want to see those games end because somebody hits a target score.
I mean, they might be exhilarating to the diehard NBA fan, but I don't think that the casual NBA fan really cares all that much. And again, the name of the game is having the star players on the court for as many games as possible.
Yeah. It's the era we live in, right? Like, sports is becoming more of just like the product. It's tied into everything. This even ties into like betting stuff, right? I mean, you want your product as a league to be the best every night. You don't just want one game and then Kawhi Leonard can't play for 3 days, or this team has no pitching for the next 5 games because they played 20 innings. You know, the leagues, they want the regular season to be more like consistent. They want a consistent product. So I think it does make sense from that perspective. I agree. Like, as a purist, I mean, I'd rather just see the 18-inning games, but like, it makes sense as long as they don't start fixing this for the postseason. I'm fine with it. I mean, yeah, the one time in the season where you get like the triple overtime game is cool, but like, a lot of these games just go on for so long, like you can't even watch them anyways. So
overtime is only 5 minutes as it is, unless, like you said, it goes to double or triple overtime.
It can be a half an hour. Easy.
Yeah, exactly. They got 3 timeouts and 5 free free throws,
right,
and then another
7
timeout.
Reviews in the last 3 minutes,
and then they got to get the defenses on. Then the other team calls a timeout.
Yeah,
it's no.
All right, quick poke around the association, and we'll hit the ice as well in the 5 minutes we've got left. So Joel Embiid, LaMelo Ball, Jason Tatum. These are your top plays in the NBA tonight, not only salary wise, but in terms of expected production. LaMarca, where are you looking in terms of, whether it's DFS like I just outlined, or if you want to go to a best bet on the sports book, your choice.
So I think LaMelo is the best DFS play of that trio. I think Detroit is going to provide a ton of DFS value tonight, backcourt and front court, right? Because they're going to be without Jalen Ivey. They're going to be without Jalen Duren. They've already ruled out Bojan Bogdanovic. Of course, you've got Cade Cunningham still out. Isaiah Stewart is questionable. Like, there's a ton of value available. So guys like James Wiseman, Marvin Bagley, my guy Killian Hayes, all very strong DFS plays. Alec Burks, excellent DFS play. But my favorite bet on the sports book is not even for a game tonight. I am officially taking the Los Angeles Lakers to make the playoffs at -135.
Wow.
I really like what they have done here at the trade deadline. They've just it feels like they've gotten so much younger with some of these moves that they made. Obviously, the D'Angelo Russell one is the one that got the most attention, but bringing in Jared Vanderbilt and Malik Beasley, I think, has given them a much better rotation. So they haven't lost since the trade deadline. I think that there's a legitimate chance that they can continue to rack up wins. And they're only like 2.5 games behind the 6 seed in the West. That's how condensed things are right now. So I think there's more than enough time for them to make up the difference.
And so -135 on the DraftKings Sportsbook to make the playoffs, as LaMarca said. All right, Moose, in the minute or two we have left. NHL, much wider slate than we've got in the association tonight. Where are you looking?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's actually a pretty decent slate. Some interesting games. I mean, the marquee is definitely like the Bruins and Oilers. I mean, the Oilers have obviously defensively, like it's a tough spot, and but they've put up goals against Colorado. They put up goals against the Rangers. I really don't hate taking them as home underdogs tonight. I will say this: like, I think betting the Oilers futures is still a good idea too. The West is wide open, so you can get them. I'm not sure what they are on DraftKings specifically, but last time I looked, they're around plus 14
to 1. 14 to 1 to win the title.
They're going to make some moves at the trade deadline. So you're probably going to want, if you want exposure to that, get on them before there's not a ton of juice. Like, there's not a ton of value. I mean, I don't know how much their line will move once they make some moves, but the West is absolutely wide open. They're still my pick for the West. As far as tonight goes, like I said, I don't hate taking them as home underdogs. I don't know if it'd be my favorite bet. I really like the under in this Vegas Colorado game. The unders are trending just massively with Vegas, especially when they're on the road. Colorado as well has been an under machine. Really like the under there. Alex Georgiev for the Avalanche has been really good of late. So that's definitely like my favorite total to bet. And then if you want a little bit of props, definitely the Dallas Stars forwards, Rupe Hintz and Jamie Benn. Jamie Benn, power play specialist. Canucks have the worst penalty kill in the league. Used plus 190 to score a goal last time I checked. So take a little bit on the Oilers tonight, just because I just can't get over the fact they're home underdogs. And I do, like I said, like I don't mind the Stars. You can take them on the puck line, but also some player props there.
Two teams we talk.
Great
Go.
name.
What's
phenomenal?
Fantastic hockey name.
Which name? Say again.
Rupe Hintz.
Lupe Hintz. All right. We have been told by our crack production team of Eamon and Cody that we can keep talking. We just can't do it here. There's a Madden sim on the way in about 5 minutes. The Packers and the Niners, two teams that we spend a decent amount of time talking about here during this particular episode, which is a total coincidence. But hey, it works out. So go see Jimmy Garoppolo or Trey Lance or whoever it is against Aaron Rodgers in Simland. We hope you enjoy it. 8 o'clock prime time. It'll be the Dolphins and Ravens, still with Lamar Jackson there. And of course, Madden After Dark, as we once called it, at 10 p.m. Eastern, the Cardinals and the Panthers. For LaMarca, for Moose, I am Kaufman. Thanks for being with us. The slate comes your way, 5 o'clock Eastern